Hello everyone. In the previous episode about reading experiences, I mentioned a detail called what if. If I could go back to the past, I hope someone will share such experiences with me sooner. When I listened to that part again, I suddenly realized an idea. I want to make a series that I wanted myself to know when I was young. Since I started that idea, the first day I immediately thought of today's topic. I share with you and my friends the topic of financial freedom. Initially, I only covered this topic in one volume, but when I came up with the framework, I found that this topic was too broad, so one volume was enough. Therefore, by making it short, it cannot cover all the ideas that I want to convey to you. If we put it all into one number, it would be very long. Therefore, I think the best way is to divide it into many small numbers. Today will be the first number. This is the number. I cannot go into detail about the entire journey, but I will focus on why we should care about personal financial management as well as why financial freedom can create positive changes in our lives. This is also the first episode where I have prepared some illustrations for you guys to understand. I will still try to explain how to make it easier for you to understand when listening to the audio above on other platforms is still conceivable. But I think it's better to listen and watch it live on YouTube. In this first episode, I will help you guys have an overview of financial freedom. Normally, when starting to do something, I have to answer 3 questions for myself. Ask, firstly, what is it? After understanding it, I will come to the more important question number 2, which is why do I have to do it? What will I get when I finish it? So after going through those 2 questions, I will go to the third question, which is the how question, and I will do it in the most effective way. Usually the how part will be a very long and laborious journey for me, and that is why I attach great importance to the first 2 questions. What and why? Because otherwise I would be wasting my time. In this journey of financial freedom, these 2 questions are especially important. Because this is a very long journey. It's not day 1, day 2. Usually this journey takes people around 10 years, some people take even longer. Which is not a matter of time. During that time we need to put in a lot of effort into it. So we need to clearly understand the reason why we set out to make this journey and prepare ourselves mentally for what we will face on that journey, and when we achieve it, then what does it bring us? Only then will we have enough motivation to complete this journey without giving up halfway. This is also the reason why I recorded this episode the 3rd time before I was satisfied. Because I am very passionate about this topic and I really want to inspire you so that you have enough motivation to start your own financial freedom journey. When I started, no one shared these things with me. I have to understand everything and draw conclusions for myself. Hopefully, through this series of sharing articles, I will help you save time struggling and avoid the mistakes I made. As for me, if I can convey inspiration to just one person, then for me this series is considered a success. Now let's get to the main topic. We will start with the question of what financial freedom is. Before we start, I also said before that this is our topic today. Today it's about finance, specifically about money, and obviously in our lives there are many other more important things besides money, but today's topic only revolves around just a financial issue. So I'm just going around this topic. The reason I have to talk about this issue first is that you don't think that we only know how to have money and not know anything else. Then I started my financial freedom journey more than 10 years ago. And the first time I understood these concepts, it was like a phone call that helped me wake up. Because before that, I also went through periods where I spent as much as I could make. There were times when I made quite a bit of money. But if you don't know how to master it, you won't be able to accumulate anything afterward. When I learned about this field, I saw that abroad, young people have made this journey very early. Some of them have done it since the age of 19 to 20, that is, as soon as they were 19 to 20 years old. You have just come into the world. I'm really jealous of these guys. Because you guys were lucky you found it so early. Well, in my case, I didn't get it as early as the other young people, and I also think I'm lucky that I found it not too late. To make it easier to imagine, there is a saying that I think reflects this financial freedom journey quite accurately, for those of you who are watching YouTube. Living a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. That means we spend 10 years of our lives living differently from our friends, and specifically how it is different, I will talk about in detail in the next paragraph. Nowadays, I often use the word 10 years to make it easier to say, but actually this time is not fixed depending on each person's financial status, but it doesn't mean that if we do this exactly for 10 years, then it will achieve financial freedom, but you can rest assured that during those 10 years we will still live a very high-quality life, not 10 years of suffering. Because there are many people who think that in order to make this journey, we cannot spend anything, which is not true. Personally, I have been on this journey for quite a long time and the activities my spending habits are quite normal. I just spend it more scientifically. This means that we will live for 10 years and not be like the people around us, and then after those 10 years, we will reach a threshold where we can say that sentence, "Fuck you money." This is a very common sentence. In the financial freedom community, it means that from now on we will no longer depend on money. Because we think carefully. That means money is something that binds us to many things, a large part of which makes life difficult. From now on we have enough money so we can say fuck you to all the things that do not add value to our lives. The things it does make its quality of life go down. Then from now on, I will have one more option to gently get rid of those things. I can give you a small example for young people. There are many cases where you finish school, go to work, and gradually realize that you don't like the job you're doing, and in such cases we often hear advice like be strong. Quit the jobs you don't like and follow your passions, and then do the jobs you're passionate about and you'll never have to work another day. So there are some sentences like that. But in reality, things are not that simple. If you quit your job, you won't have enough money to live on, not to mention quitting and going back to school to learn new fields. During that period of study, where do you get the money to study? Furthermore, when you finish studying and start applying for jobs, the initial jobs usually have very low salaries. It takes quite a long time for the salary to increase. Its income will return to the same level as before. Therefore, to leave all the work you are doing and move to a new industry, it is always easier said than done, and because it is difficult, there are many cases where you accept to continue. Doing a job that you don't like and then continuing to do it makes your life lose quality? This whole cycle of confusion revolves around one problem: the resistance of money. If we take away the money variable now, I'm sure your decision to sell will be much easier. That's an example of the value of what we have: financial freedom. Here, I have another example. By the way, I will say it in a random way. Wherever I think about it, I will consider it as an intimate sharing session with you. I won't stick too closely to any one structure. There is a question that I often ask other young people. If tomorrow you won a few tens of billions in the lottery, would you continue to do the job you are doing? Most of the answers I receive is no, and of course there are some cases where you answer yes. In that case, you really like the job you are doing. No matter how much income you make, you will still do it. By asking ourselves that question, we will be able to determine whether we are really doing what we like or whether we are simply going to work to earn money and have freedom. Finance will allow us to have the right to choose to do only what we like without having to care about how much money it makes for us. Even if it doesn't make me money, I still do it because I simply like that job, and obviously in the opposite direction it also allows me the right to step out of my job. There. Of course, at this point we have to train ourselves in the habit of doing something to the end. Not that from now on we have the right to step out of that job. Well, I don't do any job well and then give up halfway, but that's another aspect of what we're talking about. From a financial perspective, it gives us one more choice. That is the choice to stop, and this is a luxury that no one can have. Not only in work but also in financial freedom. It also gives us many other freedoms. We are free to live wherever we want. Some people confided to me that if they had a choice, they would move to Dalat to live or they would move back to their hometown. But because of work, I am forced to stay in Saigon or in big cities. That is also another example of the fact that money limits your choices. When you achieve financial freedom, once you have eliminated the factor of money, it also opens up opportunities for you. We have many doors. Not only can we live in any province we want or even in any country we want. Of course, this story is related to the issue of visas and passports, but that is another story. In terms of finances, we are no longer in one place. Lately, you've noticed that I've been repeating the word freedom a lot. In fact, freedom is the core of what we're aiming for. It's the answer to our question why. The question is, why do we have to spend so much time and effort to make this journey? There are so many people who don't research carefully and often misunderstand that financial freedom is what it means. If you are rich, you must have a lot of money to be financially free, but actually, that is not the case at all. The profound root of financial freedom is freedom, which is also the reason why there are two words freedom in the concept of financial freedom. And those two words, freedom, are the most luxurious thing that not everyone can have. Even those who have a lot of money, when they want to stop, it is very difficult. Just recently, there was a friend. He is also the owner of a large business in Vietnam. I sat down with him to talk and he confided in me that many times he wanted to stop so he could have more time to experience things. Experience other things, but if you don't have them, how will the company's hundreds of workers live? When I heard that, I really appreciated her thoughts for others, but through the words she confided so sincerely, I saw that freedom is a very important thing. Luxury is much more expensive than houses and cars. Those who have freedom are truly the rich. So how can we achieve so-called financial freedom? In this section I have some good news for you. The first is that it is not as much as we think. A lot of people think that we have to be very rich and have tens of millions of dollars in our account, then we will have financial freedom. Actually, that's not true. Actually, in this series of articles, I will give you the way to calculate the specific number of your financial freedom threshold is, and secondly, more importantly, it is not until we reach that milestone that we will be happy. This journey to financial freedom is actually a journey that helps us change our mindset, not a journey to make money. When we can change our mindset during this period, the part where we make the journey is that we already feel happy and don't have to wait 10 years to feel happy. The reason I chose to talk about this topic is when I look around me, I see a lot of my acquaintances, especially young people. There are very few people who understand this issue, and because they don't care, it leads to the result that they are very weak in their financial management skills, both personally and far. Moreover, later it's for my family. Actually, I think this mistake is not 100% your fault, but partly due to your mindset, and you've noticed that people often emphasize liberality and underestimate money, and tend to avoid talking too much about spending management and sometimes even consider it as something bad. They think that such people only think about money all day long. Personally, I think this is a very harmful way of thinking. Firstly, it is wrong because planned spending helps you control your cash flow better and thereby helps you spend smarter, both in the short term and in the long term. It is knowing how to manage finances that will help you not be stressed, and your money will allow you to spend comfortably. On the contrary, if you don't know how to manage your spending, it can easily lead to a situation of having a shortfall first and then borrowing from one end and owing the other, or worse, borrowing and not being able to repay. At that point, not only will you lose money, but sometimes you will also lose your reputation. Because of such a harmful way of thinking, it gradually creates a bad habit for young people, especially men. That is the equating between living freely and spending without control. These two things are completely different, and not paying attention to understanding these two things leads to not being prepared in any way. Building your personal financial management skills. Occasionally, when I ask some of the students, in the vast majority of cases they do not know concepts such as what is their minimum spending level and what is their standard spending level. These are very basic things in personal financial management in general. But even for simpler things like an accumulation route, you don't have it. In most cases, you do accumulate because you occasionally have a little money left over from one end or the other, for example, like an end-of-year bonus or a free land job or something. Then you put that money in the bank to temporarily see it as an accumulation period. This is a very rudimentary and ineffective way that only talks about the accumulation part, not the more detailed part such as a plan on how money can generate money for us. In general, you are completely unequipped with the skills to manage and control your cash flow, and the longer this situation lasts, the more gradually you will be controlled by that money, and have reached that point is extremely dangerous. Because as I just said above, it will greatly reduce the quality of our lives. If you keep living like you spend every month doing whatever you want, it will obviously take away your freedom. You won't be able to move at all. This is also the reason why so many people in America are afraid of losing their jobs, because once they lose their jobs, they will immediately lose everything and they will fall into crisis and even become homeless and live on the streets. In my opinion, money itself is not bad, but if you don't know how to manage it, it will control you. As for this part, there are only two options. 1. I manage it. 2. It manages me. But once it takes control of me, my life will encounter many problems. A simple example, like most of you listening to this podcast. More or less, you have witnessed a scene where a family quarrels and loses happiness just because of tensions surrounding the need for food and money. Some of you have even directly lived in these situations. In such a family, I'm not saying that having money will automatically make you happy, But when you have enough money, at least we can eliminate the factors that make us lose happiness. In this paragraph, I have a small story that I want to share with you. That is when I talked to some friends and we discussed somewhat macro stories. A little bit, then slowly the stories led to stories of old people in Vietnam who had to work hard on the streets. During the conversation that day, there was one thing that made me remember. There is always a problem in Vietnam. We are not yet rich and we are old. Of course, each family has a different situation. I do not mean that the elderly are having to working hard is because they used to spend without a plan. I absolutely do not mean that. I even love those people very much. But I want to tell young people that if you accumulate money and don't know how to manage your personal finances, be careful and you will be in a situation where you will be old before you get rich. That's why I think personal finance is a topic that needs to be understood better so that we can take reasonable actions. In the next section, I will go into specific instructions for you and your siblings on how to achieve financial freedom effectively. In my personal journey of financial freedom, I have concluded 3 important areas that I think if one of them is missing, our journey will be a failure. The first is that we must know a mindset that we must know enough of this. Just like gasoline, that helps us run long distances, and it is also a very important part to create happiness along the journey. However, if we stop at the stage of knowing enough, it is not enough because just knowing enough and stopping there will easily lead us to stagnate in a peaceful place in a basic life. This is not necessarily bad, but it will hide many risks that make our lives financially insecure, and from there it affects our own lives. That's why we need to add a second aspect. I call it escape velocity. I borrow this concept from space science. In space science, escape velocity is the speed at which we can overcome the Earth's gravity so we can leave the Earth's orbit. It is similar in that financial aspect is a specific number for us to overcome the influence of money so that we can live our lives without worrying about being influenced by it anymore. Knowing that number is not for us to stop when we reach that number, but for us to know. From now on, I have one more choice in my free choice list, which is the choice to stop if we want. Having this specific number is very important. Without it, it's like going on a journey without knowing what our specific goal is, then from there. It's very easy to make our journey vague, unclear, and finally the third part. Having a goal without a specific plan will easily become a dream, meaning we think about it but we will never actually start working on it to make any goal become a reality. The key is to break it down into smaller milestones. Smaller goals will help us see things closer and more clearly, and we will have enough motivation to embark on that journey, and that is all that I share with you and me. Guys, in the next few issues, but this one is quite long, I hope I have been able to give you guys inspiration about this field, and through that I also hope I have shown you the importance of mastering your personal financial management. Because not to mention anything else sublime, just changing my perspective on money management, gaining perspective and understanding it, has brought me a lot of value to my life. I would like to end this issue here and see you again in the next issue, which is the issue where I begin to go deeper and analyze each one in this very interesting journey. If you find these shares useful to people around you, please share them with your friends. Thank you, brothers and sisters. And thanks to those who are new to this podcast for the first time. You can click subscribe so that when a new episode is released, YouTube's algorithm will send you a notification. Goodbye and see you again.